Welcome to Banebush. I was in the mood for a creepy experience, and this is a horror visual novel inspired by creepypastas. So, sit back, relax, try to, and let's hop straight into it. The entire game is designed by the authors to be very red. Adjust the red saturation to your comfort level, referring to the image above. Or leave the settings to default. I'm just gonna leave it, I don't want to change. Very red. You started the game with maximum red saturation. Where silence reigns, unlike the noisy cities. In the darkness that swallows the light, and among the dense forest near the village, a secret hides. People whisper tales about a creature living in the dark forest. This is the story of Banebush, a mighty leshy. Few have ever faced him directly. Yet, anyone stepping into the thicket feels his presence in every trembling leaf, in every creak of the trees. Ooh, I'm so excited. Beasts hide in their burrows, birds fall silent, and trees bow to the forest's master at the sound of his ancient roots moving. Everyone's blood runs cold in his presence. You can see it. Ooh. Oops, I thought I could click. I missed a few. So sorry. Sometimes as you wander the forest, you hear creaks and cries. Those are restless souls still roaming among the oaks, seeking peace for the wrongs against the leshy. For centuries, villagers passed down legends of Banebush. About how he drove travelers mad, leaving them lost in the forest, and his terrible deeds. Anyone who disrespected his realm faced his savage wrath and became food for worms among the ancient trees. Fear Banebush, child. And if you meet him, run without looking back. I'm not going to stream that in your ear. Layoshka. It's Layoshka. So what? He so roams our forests? Just listen. Love the art. During the bloody times of the patriotic war, our village fell on hard times. Bandits began raiding and tormenting the villagers. The strong men who could have resisted the hooligans were taken to the front. Only boys and young lads were left with the girls. No one to defend the village, so those scoundrels ran amok. They took the last dishes, stripped our village to the bone. Only one brave boy decided to help the village. And did he go get the Banebush? He ventured deep into the forest to find Banebush. Our village was part of his domain, so he should protect it, if probably asked. He was ready to do anything to drive those cursed outsiders from the village. For better or worse, the boy found the Leshy. No one knows the outcome of their meeting. Some say Banebush took the boy under his protection, turning him into a wild wolf. In his new form, the brave boy tore apart all the marauders. But others claim Banebush destroyed the poor boy to ensure no one disturbed his solitude. Okay, so no one knows actually the outcome of the story. It doesn't matter who thinks what. What matters is that neither the boy nor the marauders were ever seen again. Chapter 1. Ooh, I'm excited. I don't play a lot of visual novels. In my childhood, Grandma told many stories. The ones about forest spirits and local folklore were my favorites. I will always remember her tales with warmth, almost at wrath. Looks like someone tore and scratched at that, but the bus, but... And I love the art. I especially love the stories about the evil Leshy, Banebush, who according to legend, lived in the nearby woods. Grandpa often jokingly scared me, saying Banebush would come at night and drag me into the forest if I didn't dig in the garden or misbehaved. A frightening yet truly wonderful and careful childhood in the village. I miss it. After Grandma's death, I inherited her house. Sometimes felt ashamed that I didn't take care of it. I went once to handle the paperwork, but never found the time. I like to sell it, but who wants an old ramshackle hut in the middle of nowhere? Who would have thought, but now this has become more useful than ever. It's no secret that getting involved in criminal schemes can lead to serious trouble. I didn't think it would happen to me this time. I can only hope that Foreman and his thugs won't find me here. To lose a package of bagged drugs weighing a couple of kilograms. Fucking insane. Awesome. Sorry. And I think that could. I went to pick up the goods outside the city. Everything was calm and smooth. I arrived at the spot, dug up what I needed, and headed back along the same route. But on the way back, a car cut me off. Clearly, this didn't bode well. Before I could understand anything, I saw 3 hulking men stepping out of a black car with tinted windows. Oh, well, hello there. Of course, with a gun to your head, anyone would hand over the package of drugs without argument. My hide's worth more to me. I'm ready to swear this was a setup by Furman. Either way, I'm in deep trouble. I know full well how couriers are treated in these situations. Go to the police? What's the point? What would you tell them? That someone stole your drugs? Perfect. What a fairy tale life. I just hope no one knows where I am. I left most of my things in the city. There didn't seem to be a tail. I need to lay low. The journey to the village was quite long. Maybe there would be a chance to get a little more sleep on the way. Oh, this is beautifully done. Yeah, here we go. It felt strange coming back here after so many years, as if I had been avoiding this place all along. During my absence, the village became completely abandoned. In my childhood, it seemed brighter. There were more people. Now, there's almost no one left there, here. Maybe a dozen old folks living out their days, and me, running away from my problems. I quickly found the road. In childhood, my neighbor, friend, and I often raced from Grandma's house to the bus stop. It seemed this path is forever etched in my memory. The house looked old, but stood sturdy, despite years of loneliness. The roof sagged slightly, but looked reliable. The paint had peeled off, revealing the wood darkened by time. Yeah. This house needs a long and expensive repairs. I'm afraid it'll cost more than the house itself. Oh, here we go. Let's look around. After skirting the property a bit, I reached the backyard. On the crooked structure that once served as the base of a scarecrow, a raven sat motionless. It was frozen, like a stone gargoyle, and didn't flinch at my presence. With a tinge of sadness, I noted that the bird, monotonously blinking its eyes, was the only living soul I'd encounter since getting off the bus. Reading the site, so it's very spooky ambience in real life too. The entire plot was a muddy plain, washed out by recent rain. What a dump, I thought as I looked at it. There used to be a big garden here, tended with elderly persistence by Grandma and Grandpa. Well, dude, you left it alone for years. What do you think would happen? Everywhere grew fragrant mint and lemon balm, which Grandpa used to brew aromatic tea. Looking at the remnants of my grandparents' once glorious garden, I realized it died when its owners passed away. I shifted my gaze to the old stump that, as I recalled, Grandpa used for chopping firewood. Looking closer, I noticed something sticking out of it. I walked closer. Oh, alright, this is... It's an old rusty knife was stuck in the stump. I squatted and examined it closely. A couple of cracks in the time-darkened handle, and a noticeable dull blade in some places. Could it be useful to me out here in the wilderness? Retrieve the knife from the... Okay, we're gonna... Yeah. Sharp find. Retrieve the knife from... Couldn't read fast enough. I pulled the knife out of the soaked wood and weighed it in my hand. It was lighter than it looked at the first glance. It might come in handy, yes. Better keep it with me. I don't find anything else interesting around the house. Just dirt, boards, and dry overgrowth everywhere. I didn't want to linger outside any longer. Alright. Like, dude, it could be worse. The door yielded to my efforts with a loud creak. The influx of air stirred the dust, making it swirl around the entire room. Everything looked as if time had stopped from the moment I was last here. On the wall, in an ornamented wooden frame, hung a photograph of Grandma Rita. Her face in the photo taken on a photocar was calm with a faint trace of fatigue. There was nothing special about this photo except for quiet sadness of days gone by. On the shelf stood an old TV with a large crack on the screen. As far as I remember, it didn't work. Father accidentally broke it when we were sorting through things in the house after Grandma's death. Back in the early 2000s, Mom and Dad bought it for the eldest, spending part of their savings. I remember us all sitting together in front of it, listening to Grandpa swearing as he adjusted the antenna cable to get a signal. Now the TV was just a gloomy witness to past joys, silent and covered in dust. Gas stove. On the stove, covered in a thick layer of greasy dust, was an old kettle with worn spots on its body. Grandpa used to brew fragrant morning tea for Grandma and me, made from carefully grown harvested garden herbs, mint, lemon balm, and oregano. I remember during one of those tea times, Grandma was baking something delicious in the oven while telling me how Dad and Grandpa spent an entire day bringing the stove from a neighboring town. That was right after Grandma complained to Grandpa that her stove had cracked. At that time, gas was just being installed in the village, and the stove became a new wonder of technology for her, as she liked to say. I looked around the room that opened before me, feeling how the house no longer felt as familiar as it once did. It was no longer the cozy summer retreat where I used to spend my time with great pleasure. Peeling walls, dust everywhere, a greasy bedspread from perestroika era, and the smell of mold. I managed to pay for electricity and gas in the city. There's enough food for tonight and tomorrow. I can go to the village store. After all, the house had everything needed to lay low for a while. 2031. The time was 8:31 p.m. 2 bars of signal, July 5th. Of course, a couple of missed calls from my friends. Dude, I don't think bringing your phone over here, all the way out here, is a good idea. Maybe I should turn off the phone just in case. Well, yes. I doubt Foreman would think to track me through my phone. Yeah, you'd be surprised, dude. The bed had miraculously survived all this time. Creaked, all springs were felt beneath the thick fabric. As a sofa. What a dump, I thought in my childhood memories. The house really looked better. It was alive. It's hard to imagine how my grandparents lived their whole unconscious lives here. I think they would have been happy anywhere else. Mom said that when Grandpa died, Grandma took it really hard. Her health quickly deteriorated and she refused to go to the hospital in the city, no matter how much Mom insisted. Less than a year after Grandpa's death, Grandma passed away. I hope they're happy together now. I need to stop thinking about sad things. It's depressing enough already. Stop ruining an already lousy mood. Maybe we should have some tea. With what, in that kettle? Dude is gonna die with that. The flame ignited. Looks like the gas is on. You gonna sleep? Damn, it's all such a blur. Thoughts about bastards I'm hiding from wouldn't leave my mind. How long can I stay holed up in this dump like a mouse? A month? A year? And if they find me, then what? It's clear they won't listen to me. First I'll break my fingers and toss me off the bridge into the river. Maybe they'll give me a chance to work it off. Then I'd have to slave away from them for free. And who knows how long. My theory is it's going to do the same thing as the boy did in the story. Easy money turned into problems I didn't know how to fix. In an endless attempt to figure out how to cover the loss, I achieved nothing. My savings were around 90 grand, and in my spare time. Of course, that's not enough to pay them off or replace the goods. I don't have the right connections. Package delivery coordinates were given anonymously. The only person I know is Pasha Foreman, a recruiter in this business, and incidentally, a 2-meter tall boxer and enforcer. Now I regret abandoning my attempt to succeed in tech repair, but back then, it was a struggle to make ends meet. I started to drift off to sleep. One by one, childhood images came to mind. Children's laughter, bright sunlight, happiness, and no responsibility. My biggest fear back then was Grandma scolding me if I didn't come back home before dark. If only I could stay in that moment, I'd never have ended up in the situation I'm in now. Unfortunately, time doesn't lie, and life moves on. I dreamed of the football field that was the pride of our village. Sturdy goals, even with nets, just like real football players. As kids, we could play football on that field all day long. Friendship, laughter, gum, fresh air. And in the evening, Grandma waited at home with warm tea and the most delicious food in the world, made with love. In the dream, a memory appeared as if it were real. One evening, in midsummer, I decided to take a shortcut through the forest to Grandma's house. The local boy said she could noticeably shorten the route if you went straight through it without turning. I was running late for dinner because of an overly long game of football. Oh dear. The forest surrounding our village was very dense and impenetrable. It rustled with many voices of nature, as if trying to drown out the sounds of village bustle. Grandma and Grandpa never let me wander through it, warning me I'd get lost and a wolf would take me away. I moved straight ahead, confident I was heading in the right direction. The sunlight filtered through the thick branches, casting a play of light and shadow on the ground. The forest sounds grew more eerie. I began to feel as if someone was watching me. The thicket grew denser around me, and I started to realize I'd been walking too long, even though the boy said it wasn't far. Wandering along the forest path and aimlessly weaving between trees, I completely lost my way. I'm lost! Am I going to die in the forest? I thought, on the verge of tears. You know what I would say? Turn left because I'm always right. Left, right, left. Goodness, man. Alright, I don't know. The dense trees stretched endlessly. The crunch of dry leaves echoed underfoot, and the air was filled with the forest scents. I took a deep breath, hoping to catch the scent of pine needles and fresh moss. But a stench, seemingly coming out of nowhere, suddenly hit my nose, making me feel nauseous. I'm sorry, I did steer you in the wrong way. I grimaced and held my breath, peering into the thicket. Suddenly a dark and terrifying hunched figure leaped out of the forest. A monster wrapped in roots-like armor materialized among the tree and stared straight at me. My heart pounded out of my chest, and a long scream escaped my mouth. Without realizing it, I bolted with all my strength. I leaped over the obstacles, scratched myself on bushes, anything to keep me from stopping. My lungs felt like they would burst, but I kept running without looking back. Okay. Alexei. Yeah. My first reaction to the dream slipped out aloud. What a load of crap. I'd almost forgotten about that incident. Back then, crying and scratched up, I ran home shouting, "Grandma, I saw the Banebush in the forest." After my outburst, Mom gave her a hard scolding, saying her scary tales were driving me crazy. It seemed like it was after that incident that I started having nightmares so often. So maybe Mom was right. Without Grandma's creepy stories, I might have been less jumpy. I don't think so. I long ago convinced myself that back then my overactive imagination mistook a tree stump for a monster. I still don't know what I saw that day, but one image always remains in the memory of it. A leshy, just as Grandma described in her tales, stood in the middle of the forest staring at me with its red eyes. My thoughts were interrupted by a sharp knock on the window, as if someone had thrown a stone at it. They couldn't have tracked me, could they? No, Bowman shouldn't have known about this place, unless... He tracked me through my phone. No, that's just paranoia. I don't want to cut myself off completely. I need to check what it is. I don't have a choice. There was nothing outside the window. Just the yard as usual. Just run down. If life gets better, I'll definitely tidy this place up. My grandma and grandpa really loved this place. I need to pay my respects to my departed relatives. Oi. Okay. Exactly. Where are you? Where are you finding, you crazy bird? Don't lost its screaming like that, you lunatic. This kind of stress could send me to an early grave. Studio here is all a madhouse. I need to relax, pour some tea and eat something. I cleared the table and started preparing my first dinner in the village in a long time. I pulled out bagels, I love bagels, and a couple of candies from my backpack. Hastily bought at a kiosk near the station. Now that's a... I brewed myself some green tea with mint. I do hope you wash that kettle out. Funny, it looked just like it did in my childhood. In childhood, there were good times. Even last week wasn't so bad. Pushing away gloomy thoughts, I took a sip from my mug, imagining it was the same Grandpa used to brew tea for me as a child. But alas, the taste was far from the same. Because he didn't wash out the kettle, I felt a little bit better. But I couldn't sleep peacefully without making sure another bird wouldn't fly into my window at night. It's very dark outside. I looked around trying to spot that crow, but there was no one in sight. The same overgrown yard, and the dense forest with trees swaying gloomily in its shadows. After a long day and a warm drink, I fell sleepy. Tonight, I could really use a good rest. But as always, anxious thoughts crept into my mind before sleep. A coffin with my body slowly lowered into the grave. Each thud of earth on the lid felt like a final heartbeat. I'm gone. Just cold and silence remained. My body will dissolve into this earth, decay and become food for worms. Mom will stand at the grave, her eyes swollen from tears, unable to believe her only son is now in the wooden box. Will she think it's some mistake? That I'll rise in a moment to hug her? What will I leave behind? Everything seemed important will turn to dust and rot with me. I will be forgotten. Everything I did, good or bad. It will all be swallowed by the earth. There's a fly in the window. In the dead of night, something suddenly yanked me out of sleep. The village's nighttime silence was defiled by an insistent, nerve-wracking buzzing. A stubborn fly, as if choosing me as its nighttime victim, ruthlessly disturbed the peace. Persistently trying to get into the house, it seemed to be testing my patience. Oh, goodness. I got up from the bed and looked out the window at the silhouettes of the dark forest swallowed by the night. I'm sorry, do you see what's that? It looks like it's moving. The stubborn fly insistently crawled on the glass. I stood watching the insect, feeling anxiety creep over my mind for no apparent reason. Oh, that's not a good idea. Something's gonna knock back. Oh. I know we're talking about the figure, but that was a big ass moth fly. Chapter 2. You've completed the first chapter, Villager. Just pop save. Good dream. This ancient mattress feels like it was specifically designed to destroy my back. As usual, I woke up drenched in cold sweat, thanks to another stress-induced nightmare. Well, no comfort, but I'm alive. Fair trade, I guess. Outside the window, it was a grey and overcast day. Yeah, doesn't look like anything good will happen today, but I'm used to that. After stretching a bit, I decided to take a walk around the godforsaken village. I'd been thinking about the local store. Hopefully, it hasn't closed yet. Otherwise, I'd have to rely on my childhood survival skills and go stealing apples from abandoned lots. How simple and carefree it would be to wander around looking for dubious food, if not for my current less than legal affairs. But who am I without them? I need to stock up on food for a couple of days and see what's going on around here. Maybe I'll run into some locals, get the news, and find out how life has changed in this corner of the world since I was last here. Okay. The early morning in this backwater is wrapped in an eerie calm, as if everything here is already dead, not just asleep. The air is fresh, as if it was just washed with fabric softener, and cold. It cuts straight to the bone. For July 6th, it was unusually cold, almost jacket weather. Still, there was something about this morning scenery that momentarily brought back a taste of life. It felt like I was 12 again. I remembered how, as kids, we'd run around here from early morning, darting between the houses with the neighbor boy, under the grumbling shouts of old folks and the barking of dogs from other yards. The air filled my lungs and my head even spun slightly from its freshness. The scent of grass and damp earth surrounded me. It felt pleasant. It was unusual to breathe so easily, not as usual, with city dust and grime. Well, this village needs some love. Walking through the quiet village, I seemed to slow down myself, adapting to its rhythm, its leisurely pace of life. The silence and calm around me unintentionally made me reflect on the past and ponder the future. I looked at the empty windows and peeling walls. People used to live here, but now everything's crumbling, as if mocking my memories. Now there was a decay and an oppressive sense that the past was irretrievably gone. I was almost at the store when my gaze caught on a house to the left. Once, a sweet old lady lived there, a darling granny. She always sat by the house, offering us apples, if we could show her where the Big Dipper was in the sky. Of course, we didn't know where the Big Dipper was and just pointed randomly at the sky. Granny didn't seem to care. She gave us apples anyway, chuckling to herself. Now our house was really leaning and completely overgrown with bushes, while the apple tree behind the house was still standing. Maybe I should pick up apples for breakfast. At least I'd save some money. My stomach was really growling with hunger. It was some designed to get food. To the right was the store where I figured I could grab a bite, assuming there was anything left inside. To the left was an abandoned lot with a crooked fence, behind which the apple tree was still stood. Okay. I stopped wondering where to go. Ah, crap. Okay. I'm scared. I'm gonna steal, so it's gonna be there. Or if I go to get an apple. Okay, listen, let's go to the apple tree. The plot of land looked abandoned up close, windows covered in murky stains, trash scattered in places, and the garden overgrown with dense thickets. It seemed no one had set foot here for years. Right in front of the fence stood an apple tree, probably the same one that the funny old lady used to pick apples for us. Despite the overall neglect of the plot, the tree looked beautiful, and lush. Some branches even had some growing on them already. I stepped closer, treading carefully on the ground, glancing around furtively. The crooked fence with its rotten board seemed to plead, "Don't touch me," but I was planning to stop. One of the upper branches I spotted an apple, seemingly almost ripe, yellow with a slight red blush. It's pretty high, hope I don't fall. But since I'm already here, there's no turning back. Oh my goodness, you're gonna see your ass, dude. I placed my foot on the edge of the fence and leaned on a board, which immediately cracked nastily, but still held for now. I reached out the tree, my fingers almost brushing the coveted apple. The fence beneath me creaked, one board already starting to wobble. Just a little more. Just a little more. Pluck. What are we doing? What am I doing? Oh shit. I did wrong. Realizing I couldn't reach the apple, I jumped off the crumbling fence. I think if I'd hesitated for even a second, I would have fallen with it. Breaking my neck over an apple is the last thing I need. I think the store will be a safer bet. Oh well. That was a bust. I failed you. A sip of coffee. A lot of reading. I stopped 5 steps away from the store, which looked almost comically like an island of nostalgia in this forgotten place. Old but sturdy, the appealing grocery sign above the door seemed inviting despite its worn appearance. The windows were intact, and though their cloudy panes you could see shelves and displays filled with something. The building's age didn't seem dilapidated, instead it gave it character. Speaking of quiet confidence and resilience against time, the air around was filled with the same familiar scent of the village. For a moment I felt like a kid again, coming to the store for an ice cream and a waffle cone. Closed. There has to be someone in the only store in the village.
Hey, есть кто?
Hey, anyone there? The sound of my voice felt deafening in the silence. I kept tugging at the handle, not giving up on opening the door. Hey. Someone called out behind me. I flew so hard I almost lost my balance.
Молодой человек, вы чего ломитесь?
Young man, why are you banging on the door?
Ага, извините. Я думал, что магазин еще работает.
Sorry, I thought the store was still open.
Так работает.
It is open.
Просто нет никого. Тебе купить что-то надо.
Just no one's inside. Do you need to buy something?
Да, хотел посмотреть, что у вас есть.
Yeah, I want to see what you've got.
Ну пойдем, покажу, что есть.
Well, come on, I'll show you what we've got.
А я тебя не
I haven't
видел
seen you
тут
around here
раньше.
before. You're a visitor.
Видишь?
I noted an agreement.
А как
What's your
звать
name?
тебя?
Я...
Alexei. Alexei. Ah, Alexei. I introduced myself a bit awkwardly.
Алёшка, значит.
Alushka,
Видеть
huh?
будешь
You want
так?
anything? I grit my teeth. I hated being called Alushka. Losha.
Давайте просто Алексей.
Let's just go for Alexei.
Ну что
Well,
же,
Alexei.
Меня Степан звать. Лаптев Степан Вольфович. Будем знакомы.
Pleased to meet you. I shook hands with my new acquaintance, who seemed to be local, though I didn't remember him. I apologize. I didn't remember him at all.
Ну пойдем. Чего встал-то?
Well, come on. What are you standing around for? For you to open the door. That's what I'm standing around for. Stefan took out a bunch of keys, felt around for the right one, and calmly unlocked the store. I followed him inside and found myself in a dark room.
Сейчас, Алексей, погоди секунду.
Hold on, Alexei. Just a second. What's he fiddling with in the dark? Look from a sturdy stick to...
Свет включу. Сейчас.
Turn the light. Just a moment.
Из города
You from the city?
Мгм.
Yeah, from Moscow. I muttered reluctantly. I'm not used to the sharing personal details of strangers, but Moscow is so huge that this information didn't really mean anything.
О, как.
Oh, really?
Чем сейчас молодые там в столице занимаются?
So, oh really? So what are your young folks in the capital up to these days?
Профессия-то у
Do you have a precision, at least? The question was asked with such intensity that for a moment I felt like a schoolboy being called to the principal's office. However, I decided not to dodge and answer with a partial truth. Yeah, I decided to be an electrician at college. I spoke to myself, no way I'm telling about my actual profession. Oh, electrician, that's a useful trade. You know, my radio here recently stopped working. Though you could take a look at it, electrician. I can't pay for the repair, no money to spare these days, but I'll treat you some tea. What a gig, I thought to myself with irony. I wasn't ready to return my real problems just yet, so I wasn't in a hurry. And as long as I can remember, fixing various devices always came easily to me. Nothing too complicated, of course, but I could handle an old radio. I remember back when I was studying to be an electrician, I went to a couple of practical trainings out of pure curiosity. Job wasn't hard, maintenance of apartment buildings, electrical panels. Once I even found a stash at career college, I seemingly hidden quite secretly, securely. I glanced at Stefan again, then shifted my gaze to the old radio sitting on the edge of the table. Why not help the old man? A radio is probably one of the very few forms of entertainment here. Alright, let me take a look. Yes, it's over there. Go ahead, I'll take a look. Look at... As I expected, an old radio clearly made in the Soviet Union. My grandparents had one like it. I think if I tried, I could probably find it somewhere in the attic. Honestly, I think fixing it shouldn't be too difficult. Let's see what we've got here. Oh. Ah. Okay. We have to connect all of them. Scheme components. Yeah, this is a problem. Oh, complete. Returning to the game. Okay, we did it. By calling you fixed Stefan's radio. I like the little puzzle. Looks like it's ready time to test it. Oh, look, it's working. Well, you've got golden hands, real craftsman, I can tell. You know, the radio isn't just an ordinary one. One time there was a funny story about it. My cat back then, Vasha. The black devil he was, and I closed the store and sat down to the dinner. Well, sort of. I sat down at the table and gave the cat some soup in his bowl. I turn on the radio and they're talking about some kind of dance music. I hear Vasha starting meowing. Suddenly, as the music starts playing, he gets up and starts dancing on his hind legs. I laughed so hard later I tried playing music for him again, but he just gave me a lazy look and went to sleep. Stefan looked at me as he was gauging my reaction to his story. I was just sitting here, confused.
Спасибо тебе.
Thank you, Lexi. We won't die of boredom now, that's for sure.
Да пусти.
It's nothing. I gave a quick smile and spread my hands. Well, as promised, let's go. I'll pour you some tea.
Расскажешь, как там городские живут нынче.
You tell me how city folk live these days. I didn't eat anything this morning. The old man seemed nice enough. I figured I wouldn't say no to some tea. I nodded in agreement.
Ну вот и замечательно. Пошли.
Oh, that's wonderful. Let's go. Walking by into another room, I couldn't shake the intrusive image of a cat dancing on its hind legs. Excuse me. Right. Vashka dance for 1 hour. For 1 hour. Toolkit. Photo. An old photo in the crooked frame, clearly not hung yesterday. Who is she? Probably Seven's mother or wife. She looked as stern as my college instructor. Tools hang in a neat row, looking more like decorations. It's obvious some haven't been used in ages. The rust and dust speak for themselves. Stefan probably used to do a lot of handiwork back in the day. Is that moonshine? I thought. It looked like a regular village hooch, but it was added bonus of a couple of flies floating inside. Just looking at the bottle made me queasy. Stefan probably forgot about it ages ago. A boar's stuffed head on the wall. I never understood how anyone could like that. It still looks silly with those bulging eyes and exposed tusks. It's clear no one has touched it for years. So much dust. I cautiously surveyed the storage room of the shop. They were thick with the musty scent of wood, sweet mold, and some kind of pickled goods. Stefan, visibly excited by the unexpected company, set about brewing tea. Stefan sat down at the table. He looked at me, barely holding back the question that were about to burst out of him. It was clear that the old man didn't often have guests and was genuinely happy to chat with me.
Ну как? Нравится у нас? Редко кто забредает сюда из города.
So, how do you like it here? Not many folks from the city wander this way. I noticed how Seven tried to hide his awkward excitement by a smile. I smiled back, trying to keep the conversation going. Yeah, it's really different here. Quiet, homely. Cows, goats. Unless it's the first thing that came to mind. Really see this kind of thing in the city. Seven nodded, lost in thought, with Sol holding his cup. So, what brings you here? I paused to think about how to answer him. Obviously, I couldn't tell him I was hiding here from some shady character. He might report me to the cops. I could just say I came from my grandparents' house, or make something up. But like I'm here to buy a house. I'm here to tidy up my grandparents' house. Which ones? Seven seemed to ponder, sifting through memories of the remaining elders in this backwater. I decided not to make him guess. They're not here anymore with us. Oh, I see you're Kaila's grandson. Ah, they're wonderful people. I still can picture them in their youth.
Эх, молодежь все в города тянет. А здесь, в деревне, знаешь, свои прелести.
Ah, young folk always flock to the cities, but here in the village, you know, it has its own charms. Rita and Kolya would suit that better than anyone.
Мы тогда по молодости дружили.
Back in the day, we were really close friends with them.
Зимой на санях гоняли до одури.
In winter,
Кто в огороде, кто
we stayed like crazy. And in spring, some in the garden, others in the fields from morning till night.
А когда лето наступало, все душой и телом отдыхали. Банька, рыбалка, праздники летние всякие.
And when summer came, everyone relaxed body and soul. Russian banya, fishing, all sort of summer-like celebrations. Seven paused and gave me a piercing look, as if trying to see if I understood what he was talking about.
Сегодня,
By the way,
кстати, один из самых важных будет.
Today's going to be one of the most important ones.
Ночь с 6 на 7 июня.
Night of July 6th, 7th Eve in Kupala night, if you don't know.
Любили мы праздник этот, когда юными были. Душа, как говорится, песни просила.
We loved that holiday when we were young. The soul, as they say, longed for a song. We jump over the bonfire and tell all sorts of spooky tales. They said that on Kupala night, devils crawled out of the holes. In our village, people always believed in all sorts of devilry. We were all believers. Good timing, Alexei. Good timing to come here. They were so scared you couldn't drag them into the woods by their arms and legs, Kupala night. So anyway, I remember one of those nights where the whole village was out celebrating again. The guys were singing songs and lighting fires while the girls were, as usual, doing fortune telling. They put flower crowns on their heads and ran to the riverbank. The little crowns float on the water. Oh, look at that. To learn their fate. Wherever they drifted, that's where their groom would come from. If it washed ashore, though no wedding that year. Well, that's all just folklore, of course. But Granny Rita sent her crown down the river too. Can you believe it? It floated a little and then shot towards Kupal himself, was steering it. And right there on the other side was Kolyan. The girl started giggling right away. And Kolyan, clueless ever, just barely managed to catch Rita as he jumped into his arms. That summer, your grandma and grandpa got married. Oh, that's cute. Ah, they were good people. Never mind. Oh, that's cute. Stefan's words hung in silence. Even the wind outside seemed quiet. The story about Grandma and Grandpa, simple yet so vivid, really struck me. I'd seen them in old photos, younger, happier than I remembered. Were they really like that, jumping over bonfires, weaving flower crowns? I suddenly felt a strange bitterness, realizing how little I actually knew about them. What would they say about me now? The thought planted itself deep, but I quickly brushed it aside to avoid diving further. Stefan let out a heavy sigh and continued. You know, Alexei, our village sometimes is like a fairy tale, I'd say. Excuse me, what was that? But always kind of a happy ending. So, better be careful around you. I tensed up and raised an eyebrow, not hiding my surprise. What do you mean? Well, you see... Oh, goodness, here we go. A couple of years ago, a family moved here from Moscow. They said they were looking for peace, quiet and tranquility. They arrived with 2 young sons in tow. And those rascals found no better pastime to turn the whole village upside down. Oh, sorry. We tried talking to them nicely, but they couldn't care less. So anyway, on Kupala night, they tried to have their own kind of fun. They dragged some girl from a neighboring village and headed to the river, the forage, where even locals hesitated to trade during the day. They probably thought they'd find magic in our forests or whatever you city folks are after. Night passed and morning, they were nowhere to be found. Look at that! The police searched the whole forest with dogs, but only found the girl by nightfall. They said she was scared to death, couldn't speak, just muttered and bubbled incoherently. As for the boys, all that was left were a couple of bloody scraps of clothing. It's like the earth had swallowed them whole. The district officer told me back then that those punks probably got the girl drunk and wanted to violate her. They dragged her into the forest, but no one could figure out what happened to them after that. They tried questioning the girl, but she couldn't say anything then or later.
Глаза только в разные стороны бегают, да мычит что-то без конца.
Her eyes kept darting around as she kept mumbling something endlessly.
Вот ничего выяснить
They couldn't figure out anything back then.
Следствие установило потом, что, видите ли, зверье лесное их загрызло.
The investigation concluded later that apparently some forest beasts had mauled them.
А чтобы селян успокоить, лесника нашего, Петровича, заставили капканов по лесу наставить, чтобы зверь к домам не подошел.
And to calm the villagers, they made our forester Petrovic set up traps in the forest to keep the beasts away from the homes. Tell me, that did not end well. I listened to Seven's story of some tension. There was nothing like my grandmother's fairy tales. But somewhere deep in my subconscious, the image of Banebush emerged, and my imagination is safely tied to the veins to him. After all, encouraging him in the forest years ago had convinced me that some fairy tales don't lie. I brushed the thought aside and asked the first question that popped into my head.
А может, их
Maybe the Leshy took them. Maybe the Leshy took them, or maybe it was the beasts. That's for each person to decide. What to believe and what to think. And the investigation will decide for itself what to write in the report. I think I've had enough local tales for today. I really need to focus on figuring out how to solve my own problems. Time to head home.
Степан Вольфович, спасибо за угощение.
Thanks for the tea and the talk.
Мне идти уже пора. Дома порядок
Is she going? I want to tidy up the house. Oh yes, of course, go ahead. Thanks again for fixing the radio. If you need anything, feel free to drop by. Here, take some bagels. Have them with tea. My treat. Without much thought, I grabbed the bag of bagels from the table. I don't want to refuse and disappoint the old man. Besides, I originally came here for food. Thank you. Goodbye. Seven kept beaming his trademark smile. I smiled back at him and stepped outside. Oh, the kitty! What's up, Vashka? Heard you full of roaming? Well, come on in. What are you saying there for? Well, that was quite the trip. Some red-eyed child. I slightly scolded myself for spending the whole day listening to the strange old man's stories instead of tackling my real problems. The stories were interesting, but I had to return to my grim reality. As I approached my new home, I was already anticipating flopping onto the creaky, prehistoric bed with a contradictory look on my face. But it seemed fate had other plans. Hey. In front of my house stood an old Lada 2108, and I could make out the three familiar faces inside. Shit! It was Pasha Fullman and his goons, Vasha and the third one, can't remember his name. Oh.
Ну здорово, сельчанин.
Well, hello there, villager. Hi, I replied, trying to hide my tension. I'm so screwed. So what the hell are you doing here, Alosha? Know how much of the hassle it was to drag ourselves out to this backwater?
Как вы вообще, блядь, меня нашли?
How the hell did you even find me?
Ебальник закрой свой и
Oh.
слушай. Подольше бы и по-честному поработал, может,
Yeah,
додумался бы сетку
fine.
рабочую в жопу засунуть.
If you worked long and honestly, maybe you would have thought to shove your work sim card somewhere else.
Не светите и у хаты, на тебе
Didn't you use it near the house registered to you?
Мы, значит, тебя повышаем и отправляем на крупное дело. А ты
So,
в знак
we promote you and send you on a big
благодарности
job, and this is how you thank us,
товар.
running off with your
Ты
our
же
stuff.
прекрасно знаешь, что бывает
You
с
know
такими
exactly what happens to smart asses like that.
Фома, я ни при чем.
I find nothing to do with this. When I was transporting the stuff, some guys cut me off in a car and robbed me in gunpoint to call your shit.
Чего, блядь? Ты реально думаешь, что я такой
Yeah, exactly. That's why he fled.
Фома, я всегда свою работу выполнял честно.
Foma, I've always done my job honestly. This looks like a setup to me.
Может,
Maybe you send those-
вы и подослали. А сейчас
Ты охуел? Ты сейчас кого под сомнение? Ты думаешь,
Okay, I'm not gonna-
тебя грохнуть?
You think it's hard for me to kill you and bury you in this backwater? No one's ever gonna find you here, dumbass. Alright, you're a bit angry. Anger issues, dude.
Фомин, успокойся.
I'm not trying to act tough, Fomin. Calm down.
Откуда я
How am I supposed to get
достану
you the stuff I don't have?
Да мне похуй, сука! Хоть роди, хоть высри!
Give birth, what should did that? The situation was escalating. I clenched my jaw, feeling my racing pulse budding in my temples. I'm just gonna say silent. It's 3 against 1. I can't fight back. I want the stuff in my hands by morning. Try to run, and you won't be able to walk anymore.
Но
Well,
если
except
только
piss and shit yourself. Oh my gosh. Got it, Alosha.
понял.
Got it.
Ну еще.
Naturally. The sound of departing car's engine started the countdown. Bastards. Great hiding spot, Alosha. As God sarcastically praised myself. Now what? What if I sell the house and use the money to buy drugs to replace the lost shipment? No, selling the house is hassle. Finding a buyer would take forever. And at best, I get 100 grand out of it. Running isn't an option. They'll find me again and then I'm really screwed. Fuck, what the fuck do I do now? In despair, I grabbed my head and wanted to tear at my hair, scream, break something, but nothing of that would help. Helplessness was driving me insane.
Если этот мир отвернется от тебя, иди в лес. Там ты найдешь либо спасение, либо смерть. В лесу все
If the world turns its back on you, go to the forest. There you'll find either salvation or death. The forest is honest. I suddenly remember my grandmother's words as clearly as if her voice was speaking right next to me. Oh dear. What if Grandma was right? What if there was really something out there? I saw it in that forest as a kid. I remember, if Banebush is really there, it'll either kill me or outright or help me. If I'm screwed anyway, what difference does it make? There was always something strange about this place. The old folk stories, the vanished people, the whispers in the forest. I looked out the window. The forest is honest, I kept repeating to myself, staring at the dark grove. Going there was madness, yes, but at least I'd have some kind of chance. There's no other way. Oh. To the forest we go! A few minutes into the journey, and the trees closed in around me, as if blocking my path. Stepping forward was terrifying, but staying there still was even worse. To the forest. Creatures nearby, you have completed the second chapter. Chapter 3! Oh, that's not good. I'm just gonna say... Clouds, almost completely hidden by the dense canopy of trees, hovered over the endless forest expanses. Moss, soaked with moisture, spread underfoot like a soft carpet, muffling the sound of footsteps. The air, rich with the scent of soil, decaying leaves, was damp and heavy, settling my lungs and clouding my mind. The whisper of leaves, the occasional snap of twigs underfoot, and the distant cries of birds created the illusion of another dimension. Here I felt like an insignificant human, an uninvited guest. Thoughts about my past life slowly filled my mind. The endless struggle for money in a quiet corner of the metropolis, where each new day brought new challenges. The life of a dealer, full of fear and the constant threat of disaster, poisoned the soul, exposing its flaws. I didn't even notice how I became a paranoid person who, an ordinary evening, expected someone to break into my house. My imagination painted the faces of people whose lives were poisoned by my dealings, their eyes full of despair, desperate bitterness. Here in the depths of the forest, all my past felt like a burden dragging me to the ground, to the realization that I had dug my own grave. Well, that's a scary thought. It's unfair. Why do I have to seek salvation now among these trees and darkness? What will the Banebush do when I find him? If the stories are true, he wasn't entirely merciless. After all, he didn't kill the girl from 7th Story who naively trusted the thug from the capital. Maybe this Banebush one helped the innocent? If that's the case, I'm screwed, I chuckled. Thoughts about the Banebush and his possible protection no longer brought comfort. They only helped me, plunged me into new terror. What if he's not an ally at all, but another threat far scarier than any city gangsters? What if I just die here? I don't even know what's worse, surrendering to the cops or venturing into the forest at night to find the Leshy. What a effing mess. I ventured deeper into the forest, which had already turned into a trap. I felt like I was in the jaws of a giant rabid dog, which were gradually closing, leaving less and less space to breathe. Every rustle, every creak of branch made my heart skip a beat in fear. I remembered again how my grandmother, sitting by the stove, would quietly tell me her stories. "Remember, Losha, the forest always watches," she would say, looking straight into my eyes. "It knows all your thoughts, senses, fear from a mile away. It feeds on it." Now her words echoed in my head like a warning. Having lost track of time and distance travelled, I tried to suppress the fear within. Suddenly the deep silence of the forest was pierced by a plaintive howl. I froze, my heart began pounding twice as hard, threatening to burst out of my chest. Holding my breath, I tried to pinpoint where the sorrowful sound was coming from. The howl came again, more insistent this time, as if beckoning me. My heart pounded louder in my chest, and in a voice instantly whispered, "Wandering aimlessly through the forest won't get me anywhere." Obeying the call, I started moving slowly, drawing closer to the source of the sound with each step. Aww. I pushed through the thicket and emerged onto a clearing bathed in pale moonlight. Out there in the moonlight, covered in a figure of a large black wolf. A trap had sunk deeply, mercilessly into one of its paws. Whimpering in pain and trembling in a hunched position, the wolf no longer tried to free itself. Its gaze of suffering pierced me. The animal seemed to hope for my help. Well, what a waste, I thought. I stood frozen, unable to steady, tremble in my hands as if emotions furiously jumped from pity to fear. Gathering the remnants of my composure, I approached the wolf. How? Oh. The beast greeted me with a weak growl full of pain and warning. Fear gripped me tightly, paralyzing my movements, but I gathered the last trait of courage and decided to act. Alright, opening the trap barehanded isn't going to work. Good thing I kept the knife with me after all. Ah, the knife, you see? I don't understand how we do this. My hand barely had enough slipped off the trap's mechanism. The wolf jerked his paw and snapped its teeth. I recalled barely maintaining my balance. The wolf I looked on being books of pain, human-like, understanding, sending chill down my spine. I need to pull myself together and try again. Do I have to like fill it up? I tried several times to open the trap and mechanism wouldn't budge. Maybe it's for the best, I thought. No! Oh shit, man.
Извини, друг.
Friends, I can't help you. That's gonna come and bite me in the ass. Sure, I felt sorry for the wolf, but I came here to help myself. At least I tried. I justified myself, trying to push away unnecessary thoughts while wandering aimlessly. I did the same with the... I don't know what I'm doing wrong with that. I was tired. My steps grew clumsily, my thoughts tangled like the interwoven branches above. But I kept walking. No. I stumbled into a clearing and barely had time to look around when a tall, twisted figure appeared among the trees. I froze another wave of terror. Nothing single found around, only my heart pounding with all its strength. A creature resembling a twisted human watched me, extending a hand in my direction. My sanity slipped further away, sinking along with my courage. For a while I watched a silhouette that had frightened me, but it remained motionless. I slowly moved a bit closer. Gone. Stay calm. When I finally dared to approach it, became clear. It was just a tree stump. A nervous chuckle escaped my chest, futilely attempting to shake off the tension. I looked closer at the unnaturally twisted tree trunk. One of the branches, resembling an outstretched arm, hung a fly agaric mushroom. Its crimson hue reminded of a cigarette ember glowing in the dark. A question echoed in my mind. How could it possibly end up on that branch? As if someone had hung it there just for me. Yeah, the forest seemed especially full of hints today. Am I supposed to eat it? Unexpectedly for myself, I shouted out loud. My voice echoed through the forest and faded away without even receiving an answer. Oh. I'm gonna die if I eat it. I don't die. Do I eat it? I'm gonna die if I eat it. This is complicated. Eat it. You ate the fly, Goric. Yeah, eat the deadly mushroom that is found in the forest. That always ends well. I'm gonna die. The bitterness of the fly agaric stayed down my throat, its pulp reaching the walls of my stomach. The taste of earth and bittersweet slice of the forest filled my insides. My consciousness slowly dissolved and the image of streets blurred before my eyes. I wandered aimlessly through the forest, feeling each step reverberate as a pulse on my skull. The tree canopies closed above my head, the rustling growing cloud and merging into a swarm of unnatural oppressive sounds. The ground beneath my feet felt soft and damp like a living flesh, while the roots withered, trying to entangle my legs. Someone yelled at me from the darkness, forced me to stop abruptly. My head spun so much that I didn't realize when I had already turned towards the sound. Behind the trees, familiar figures began to emerge. Baring their teeth, they grinned predatory at me, as if I were prey. Lie alone in the woods. I'll grind you in the dirt with the whole forest. We'll tear you apart and fertilize the ground with your guts. Got it? Nah, we'll slice you up. Every beast in this forest get a piece. And you'll howl like a beaten mutt. I wonder if we saved the wolf, that wolf would come and save us. But we didn't. At the voices, violent horns creeping through the thicket, each sound turned into a burning ember, painfully melting my brain. These creatures weren't human. I hated them to the point of trembling, to the icy venom coursing through my veins.
Ёбаные черти!
Effing... I screamed and broke into a run, zigzagging between the trees just to stop seeing their faces. I ran for a long time, and then my lungs started burning from within, so I had to walk. The feeling of an alien presence didn't go away. The shadows of the trees moved in sync with my steps, and I felt deep within this that someone or something was always watching me from the depths of the thicket. Peering into the darkness, I saw my grandmother. I wanted to rush forward and hug her, but her face distorted into a horrifying way. Sonny spoke in a quiet, raspy voice. Once a cowardly boy decided to run away from his troubles. Entered into the depths of the forest, seek out the leash and ask for help. That night, human screams could be heard from the other side of the forest. And what happened to him, Grandma? Just listen. Okay. Bishop Pot while he was still breathing, and the wolves were feasting on whatever fell to the ground. Oh, that's not good. Okay, I made the wrong decisions. I wandered recklessly through the dark thicket, something walking, sometimes breathing into a run, breaking into a run without regard for the path. I was lost in time and space. My consciousness was being crushed from within. My legs trembled so much I could barely move them. The sounds of the forest merged into a quiet whisper, creating a single vibration. Suddenly, from all sides, a heavy, creaky voice sounded. Why did you come to me? Help, they want to kill me. A please sound pathetic. My voice trembled and my breath came in ragged gasps. The forest was silent. Everything around grew quiet, except for the occasional drops of dew falling from the branches to the ground. These were the tears of other losers who had come here like me. Couldn't make it back. The voice crackled again. You're not the first to come to me. Many have sought salvation among my trees. Did they find it? My words dissolved into the air, and the forest only listened intently, in no hurry to answer. It is alive. The wind was its breath, and its heart beat to the rhythm of the woodpecker's strikes. Its roots entwined its veins as millions of worms streamed at blood beneath the earth. You've gone where neither your feet nor your soul should venture. Here blood soaks into the roots more easily than rain. The forest answered me with a rustle that sounded like laughter. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. No one leaves here in one piece. What are you talking about? What do you want? No. Oh? Standing before me was not a monster I had expected to see. He resembled an old man with a thin, twisted body like dry roots, and his skin was cracked, like wood scorched by lightning. His eyes burned with crimson fire, like embers in a dying campfire. His clothing was nothing more than a rotting rags, except for a tattered red polka dot scarf on his arm. A black collar gaped in his forehead, resembled the rotted cavity of a tree, oozing thick, dark sludge. It dripped onto the ground, its stench overpowering. It took my breath away. My stomach climbed towards my throat. The air around me filled with the scent of decay. It became hard to even swallow. I stood rooted to the spot, jaw slack, staring at the leshy until its voice jolted me awake. The eye, what? Your eye worm. A vile soul, but a sharp eye. If you found me. It dawned on me what he meant. My legs buckled and my vision darkened. Nausea rose to my throat and I barely had back the urge to vomit. Maybe you need something else? No, just give him the bloody eye. I whimpered the question, the pathetic attempt to bargain with the ancient forest spirit. I wanted to bolt and run, but my legs seemed rooted to the ground, leaving me unable to move. An eye or your life, choose. I'm gonna pay. Oh. My hand jerked towards my face. The will to live tore me apart, screaming like a wounded animal, drowning out even the terror of what was about to happen. I could already feel the sharp, thorn-like fingers dig into my eye socket. I wanted to scream and to beg a god I never believed in, but the words struck in my throat. All that remained was trembling and all a consuming horror coursing through my veins. My mind slipping refused to believe that was happening, but I already made my choice. I stood there, unable to make a sound, and silently nodded in agreement, until fear snapped me back. The pain was unbearable. The wood around me exploded in red light. It felt as if a red-hot hook was driven into my eye socket and started pulling. I heard a squelching sound like was something wet and torn away from my, something sticky. I felt nerves and veins stirring, the pulsating eyeball being wrenched from my skull. Warm streams of blood ran down my cheek, filling my nose and mouth, choking me with its metallic, nauseating taste. Through the veil of pain, I heard screams of creatures that brought me here. The gut-wrenching cries, steeped in primal terror, pierced the forest. One of them screamed as if being torn apart from within. His voice broke into a rasp, replaced by gurgling wet sound, as though his lungs had turned into bloody gulp. Someone squealed like a pig at the slaughter, interrupted by the crunch of bones and tearing flesh. I lay there, listening to the lashy cheers depart, their lives fading one by one. At first I wanted to cover my ears, but then I couldn't. I enjoyed hearing it. My lips stretched into a smile on their own. My chest felt empty and light. I laughed loudly. 3 weeks later. Ministry of Affairs of Russian Federation case. Oh my. Huh? I'm in an insane asylum? Question 2 or more persons. Following a report from resident Folk arrived at incident. And bodies of 3 individuals covered in violent death. Fallacy. Okay. All deceased exhibited multiple stab wounds. At some distance from the crime scene, Alexei was found unconscious with a severe injury, his eye missing. According to initial medical examination, Smirnov was under the influence of hallucinogenic mushrooms. A thorough examination of the crime scene was concluded, including a fingerprint collection. It was determined that all victims died as a result of multiple wounds inflicted by sharp objects, presumably wooden stakes. Fingerprints belonging to were found on the bodies, belongs to the crime scene. Blood traced, leading from the victims' bodies to the location where Smirnov discovered matched his blood type. A suspected murder weapon in the form of a sharpened fragment contrived. A forensic psychiatrist evaluation determined that Smirnov Alexei was legally insane at the time of the crime. Based on all the collection evidence and witness statements, the defendant's confession, and the result of the psychiatric evaluation, Smirnov Alexei is to be committed to compulsory treatment in the psychiatric prison. You were accused of killing bandits and left in a mental excitement. Ending gallery. The end. Alright. Wow. Okay, what a journey. This game, visual novel, it's got six endings, I believe. Go play it and go find it for yourself. But let's look at this. 6 endings, and I've got the insane. So obviously the wolf and not, different things you can do. If you enjoyed it, go play it for yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I do hope you stay safe and away from forests. Cheerios.